what's up, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls? It's your boy Oil Star Lewis here with episode 1 of my motorbike tutorial sessions. So today's lesson is going to be the absolute basics, so just components of the bike and going over some very basics of the bike. I apologize in advance for my voice. I've been out riding for quite a while. I'm in the middle of nowhere and I don't have a drink and my mouth is very dry, so I apologize. But I thought this was quite an attractive place for just near the beach and the ocean, so it's quite a nice little place to pull over and get this filmed. So surrounded by people that are probably thinking, why is he talking to himself in the middle of a car park? But anyway, so basic components. So we're going to go over, where your feet are, where your hands are, what's around them sort of areas, what the buttons do, all this kind of thing. So to start off, we'll do a little bit of basic as well, getting on and off the bike to start off. I always advise people getting on and off the bike on the left side of the bike. The reason for that is the side stand is on the left, so the bike is naturally leaning to the left, as you can clearly see. So it makes it easier to get your leg over. Also, the exhaust is on the right side, so if you've been riding for quite a while like I have, and it is very warm, very hot, so if you get off on the right, you've got a lot higher chance of leaning against it and potentially burning yourself or anything like that, especially if you're not wearing proper gear. So always get on and off on the left side, much easier. Always leave your kickstand down when you're getting on and off. I see some, I don't know why, to be honest, I did it when I first got on a bike as well. What I did is I grabbed the bike, I put the kickstand up, and then I got on the bike, so I was having to balance the bike while getting on. And a lot of people do this and I'm not really sure why. Leave the kickstand down. Even if you're sitting on the bike with the kickstand down, it's strong enough. It's not going to fall, it's not going to break, nothing like that, so you will be fine. So yeah, get on and off on the left side, super easy. So we'll start off with the basics. Obviously we'll go to the handlebars and we'll talk about what's on the left side, what's on the right side. Oh, I really need a drink of water. So I'm going to straighten these out. There we go. So depending on the bike you've got, depending on the model, depending on the year, it's going to look slightly different, but majority of the time the layout is pretty much identical, apart from minor little changes. So on your left side you will always have your clutch. So this is your clutch lever. I've also got my main beam and high beam just here. I have my hazard lights, which is obviously put all of my indicators on to show that something's wrong, or obviously some people use them to thank someone, yada yada. And then we also have, so underneath you have your indicator, or turn signals as the Americans will call them. You need to remember when the first time you get a bike or you start riding a bike that your indicators don't turn off automatically. So in a car you'll indicate to the left, you'll turn left, and then once you straighten up it'll turn off automatically. On a bike it won't do that. So on a bike what you've got to do is you've got to actually depress the switch. So when you push the switch in, that'll disengage it and it'll turn off. A lot of people when they first start forget this and they're riding down the road and they've left their indicator on, which can be dangerous because people might think you're turning off and they may pull out in front of you. It also just gives the wrong impression to a lot of drivers anyway. Underneath that you've usually got your horn. I have seen on some models that they are the other way around, but very few. I think I've only seen it on 2. I believe it was the new ZX10, the Kawasaki ZX10, the one that they were the wrong way. I may be wrong, I'm sure someone will correct me, but the majority of the time that is what that is like. And then on your right side you have your front brake. So your front brake lever is right here. You've then got your throttle. So obviously this is your twist and go throttle. You've then got this big red one is your kill switch. Underneath that I have some meter dials. Basically what these do on my bike is they change the screen, so I can flip between like the time and I can track how many miles I've done, things like that. Once again, depending on your bike and depending on the model, that may be in a different place. I know my old bike, these buttons were on the actual display itself, so it just depends. Obviously have a look at your manual and see where yours are. Underneath that is your ignition switch, so this is what actually turns on the bike. Once again, depending on the make and the model, some bikes you may be able to just turn it on. I have a Suzuki, so what I have to do is I have to pull the clutch in and then I have to turn the ignition on to actually start the bike. If I just press the switch on its own, it won't turn on at all. It doesn't do anything at all. Dead easy. Obviously middle, you've just got where your keys will go, so on, off and lock. Obviously to lock it, what you need to do is pull your handlebar all the way to the left, push the key in, turn to lock, and then obviously take the key out. That then locks the handlebar in place so I can't move it. Makes it a little bit easier if you're leaving it on the street or something like that. Obviously stops someone from being able to just walk away with your bike. So if it's on the lock position, it's just going to go in a constant circle. So unless they can actually pick it up and move it, then they're not really going to get far, are they? undo that. I apologise if there's any wind noise coming through. It is rather windy today. So yeah, so that is the handlebars. Pretty much everything you need there. One little thing about the kill switch is I see some people, mainly Americans, I'm not really sure why, but you know, you'll pull up in a car park like I've done, your bike's on. What I do is turn my key, like you would in a car, you turn the key. What I've seen a lot of people do though is they'll use that kill switch. So they'll flick that kill switch, which turns their bike off. I don't really know why you would do this. The kill switch is there for emergencies only. It's like if your throttle jams, or you know, something's gone wrong that you can't control, and you know, you can't slow down or something like that, you would flip your kill switch and that would turn your bike off. So I don't use that as an on-off switch at the beginning. I don't really know why people do that. I never ever touch that. That is for emergencies. That's why it's a big red one, just like your hazards. Emergencies. So a bit of advice is just don't use that. You will see a lot of people doing it, but I don't advise to do that. So yeah, so that is the basics of the handlebars. So what we'll do now is we'll look at obviously where your feet are. So on your left side, obviously this is your foot peg. Some of them will be adjustable, you can slightly move them. Obviously mine are pretty far back because of the race position, obviously on my bike, so my knees are going to be, you know, up here, my leg kind of comes down. Some bikes will just be straight down, it just depends. He's blaring his music. some 90s dance music or something. Right. This here is your gear shifter. So this is how you change gear. So obviously, you know, it's no stick shift or anything like that, obviously. So literally it just goes up and down. So you would flick it up with your foot or flick it down with your foot, and that'll change the actual gear. It's dead easy, dead simple, but we'll go over the gear selectors and you know how the gears work in probably in episode 2, once we talk about like sort of getting off and stopping and stuff like that. So but yeah, so that is that. I've got people walking past and just looking at me really strangely. On the right side, once again, another foot peg, and you've got your rear brake. So this is the rear brake. So you've got your front brake and your rear brake both on the right side. So unlike a car, obviously, where you just press a single pedal and it'll do all 4 wheels for you, this one is manual, so you control the front and the rear yourself. Once again, I'll go over that in a little bit more detail once we start talking about braking and stuff like that. Obviously, you got your exhaust. You'll have foot pegs on the back, which is for obviously a pillion or a passenger, which is basically just what pillion means. And to be honest, that's pretty much everything that you're going to need just getting started. I mean, that's for the oil, so checking your oil obviously. But yeah, the basics of the components and what you actually need to know to even ride. I'm not going to go into specifics of what everything actually is, because unless you want it to be mechanical and stuff, you don't really need to know that. I just wanted to give people an idea of what the basics are on a bike, so that when they first walk up to one, they're not like, oh my god, I don't know what any of this is. So some people can be very nervous, and this gives you a little bit of a heads up when you go for, you know, your lessons or your test, or you just get yourself a bike and want to jump on and go. So yeah, so that is that. Next we're going to talk about the display. Right, so the display, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to hop on the bike, so obviously hold the handlebar and cock my leg over. I'm then going to straighten the bike up. So I'm flat footed on my bike. Obviously depending on the height of your bike you may not be, but make sure you're nice and secure. Obviously you don't want it, you know, falling over. So I'm just, you know, I can move that with my thighs. I'm nice and comfortable, everything's good. So I'm going to turn my bike to on. My display is going to turn on. You might not be able to pick that up, but you'll hear the sort of the electric sound going off, and all the lights will come on. Wait until all of them go off before you turn your bike on. That's your bike just doing some, you know, some checks, basically making sure, seeing if anything's faulty before you go. So all the lights will come on. If they all go off, then everything's fine. If something stays on, you would check your manual to see what the symbol means and figure out what is wrong. So here I've got my gear indicator, which tells me what gear I'm in. I've got my speedo, which obviously tells me the speed I'm doing. Mine's a digital one. Some of them will be analog like this, so it'll be a dial rather than a screen. This is my rev counter, so it tells me how many revolutions per minute my engine is doing, which is very handy when you're new to sort of figure out when to shift up and shift down. But once again, go over that later. Neutral light, so you know when you're in neutral, because obviously if you're in gear and you let go of the clutch, it's going to stall, and unlike a car, you can't look at the shifter and see what you're doing because it's a pedal. So you'll always have one of them. Make sure that's lit obviously whenever you let go of the clutch. well, when you're stopped, obviously. Fuel light, which will come on obviously when I'm running out of fuel, and my beam to tell me if I've got my high beam on or not. That one is, I can't actually remember what that one is. I will have to check my manual for that one. I can't really remember. That's it. Obviously oil, engine temperature, I've got the time on mine, but like I said, if I use my little things, you can see that it's changing through. So I tend to log how many trips I've done, and also the miles on each one, so that I know when I need to, around about when I need to fill up, in case I'm going somewhere I'm not sure about. Don't want to get stuck running out of fuel in the middle of nowhere. And then I've got some buttons on the side which will change the clock and everything like that. Like I said, the display, depending on your model, will vary. So obviously just have a look at your manual and see what yours is and what everything does. I'd always advise reading that before you start playing with it, just in case. I mean, it's the best way to do it. So yeah, so that's the basics of the components and what things do. And yeah, if I've missed anything, please let me know, but hopefully that gives you a quick insight of sort of everything that's on the bike. And next lesson, I'm gonna teach some basic clutch control and some throttle control and the basics of braking, and then we'll go on from there until you can get yourself out and be able to do everything you need to do. So thanks for watching, guys. I hope that helped, and check out lesson 2. So until then, guys, peace out.